It is an honor to be with you and to introduce you to one of my heroes, Dr. Carolyn Wu. The Catholic Church in the United States organizes its charity through two organizations. Catholic Charities coordinates the church's charitable work inside the United States. And Catholic Relief Services, or CRS, organizes all of our charity outside the borders of the United States. Dr. Carolyn Wu is the president and CEO of Catholic Relief Services and oversees one of the world's largest international humanitarian relief services agencies. Located in Baltimore, CRS helps over 100 million people in 91 countries. With an annual operating budget of more than $800 million and a 5,000-member staff around the world, her organization offers programs that focus on emergency response, health, education, and peace-building initiatives. Now, Dr. Wu was no stranger to Catholic Relief Services when they asked her to become president. From 2004 to 2010, Dr. Wu served on its board of directors, personally visiting countries in extraordinary need, including Indonesia after the Indian Ocean tsunami, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Ethiopia, Kenya, and more. But Carolyn will tell you that she became inspired by missionary work long before coming to CRS. She was born and raised in Hong Kong, and Dr. Wu attended a school run by the Maryknoll sisters. She learned from those missionaries, and in high school, she started assisting in clinics, in teaching English, and doing translations. It was her first taste of giving back, and it was the beginning of a lifelong commitment. She came to the United States at the age of 16, and she completed 3 degrees at Purdue University in economics, in industrial administration, and a PhD in strategic management, becoming a well-regarded professor and administrator at Purdue. In 1997, Dr. Wu, with her husband and 2 sons, moved to the University of Notre Dame, where she became its dean of the College of Business. Under her leadership, the college flourished and became the #1 ranked undergraduate school of business in the United States. Carolyn developed a national reputation for calling business students to take their faith seriously, to become virtuous leaders in their businesses, and to make a difference in the world. It was a challenge that she herself answered when asked to serve as Catholic Relief Services president and CEO. I'm proud, therefore, to introduce Carolyn to you as a leader, yes, but a leader with the commitments of a global humanitarian, a faith that undergirds all that she does, and a heart that matches your own hearts, namely that the world's poorest should always have someone to care for them in their direst need. So join me, please, in welcoming Dr. Carolyn Wu.
Thank you so much. It is a privilege to be with you for 2 reasons. I think we're doing translation. One is that my husband is a member of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and he served on its board. The second reason is that we are in the same work together. CRS was created by the American bishops 70 years ago to serve the poorest and the most vulnerable in the world. Since 1943, we have left countries which have become wealthy. So we are no longer in Eastern Europe, for example, but we are in every country in Africa where Americans are allowed to serve. We tend to serve those who are in the most remote areas or in countries where the situations are very fragile, like in the Middle East. For example, we're in Jerusalem, we're in the West Bank, we're in Gaza. Our goal is to serve those whom nobody else would want to serve. So we are in the same work. CRS is part of a big confederation called Caritas Internationalis. Caritas Internationalis has 164 members. They are the Caritas of Sudan, or Caritas of Kenya, or CAFOD, which is the British equivalent of CRS, or Trocare in Ireland. But in total, we belong to a confederation of 164 Caritas in the world. Our work leads us to work with 1,100 partner organizations, 1,100, and half of those are Catholic. And these Catholic organizations include the Bishops' Conference, dioceses, the local Catholic charities or Caritas, religious orders. I would not be surprised if we've worked with St. Vincent de Paul. So our work not only benefits the 100 million people we serve, but also our partners, the sister organizations of the Catholic Church, which half of our work is with the sister organizations of the Catholic Church. So how we build up the capacity of these church partners is also very important to us. So today the talk is about the phase of poverty. And actually, I won't focus as much on the poverty statistics because I'm going to give you a handout that has more of those numbers. I'm going to talk about how CRS, the new approaches to serving the poor, so that we could open up for a conversation. The statistics on poverty let us know how big the problem is. We still have more than 1 billion people out of 7 who live less than $1 a day. Over 800 million people in the world go to bed hungry. They don't know where their next meal is coming. Every year, we have at least 6 million children under the age of 5 who die of preventable diseases. And sometimes something as simple as diarrhea. Their diarrhea may be due to the lack of basic sanitation facilities, a situation which affects 2.5 billion people in the world who don't have proper sanitation. As for education, nearly 1 billion, again 1 out of 7, enter the 21st century unable to read a book or sign their name. Over 100 million school-aged children do not attend schools. And what I've done is I could go on and on with these numbers, but actually you have a set of statistics that you could draw on. I just want to note a few things. Most of the poor people live in rural areas. On the other hand, we are also now looking at very poor people who live in middle-income countries. So they're the very poor countries, but they're the rising countries in which there is a lot of inequity. We also know that malnutrition or hunger is a major problem. And 2/3 of the world's hungry are just in 7 countries. They include Bangladesh, China, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, India, Indonesia, and Pakistan. We know that a lot of the people who are hungry are actually farmers. So that's ironic. We also know maternal health care is very important because 1 out of 6 babies who are born have low birth weight. And that malnutrition, the lack of nutrition, is a major cause of a lot of issues, physical as well as stunting of mental capacities. We also know most people don't have access to clean water. About 1 billion do not. And that double that number of people have diseases which are waterborne. So I think those give you some sense across the world that there's still a lot of poverty, there is a lot of hunger and malnutrition, that lack of access to clean water is an issue, and a still high degree of illiteracy. How do we attack this problem? The simplest way is what we would call resource transfer. That means we just give them something. We give them money, we give them food. That is what people want to do when they see faces of despair that form the standard image of poverty. We just want to give them food, water, clothing. It is a good impulse that helps many people, but it really does not address the problem itself, except in the short term, and only in certain type of circumstances. The idea is to help people get back on their feet, but the problem is that many of the world's poor have never been on their feet, particularly economically speaking. So we cannot restore them to a workable life after the emergency, recognizing that they never had a workable life. Beyond giving things, the next step would be skill transfer. If giving a hungry person a fish is a resource transfer, then teaching them how to fish would be a skill transfer. That might mean teaching people better agricultural techniques, getting them to use better seeds, and have better farming and fertilizer practice. It might mean education or training for jobs. A lot of our work actually is of this kind, where we help people build capacity. But even this is not enough, because some people cannot fish because they have no access to a pond. Sometimes there is a pond, but there's too much ethnic conflict that prevent the person from going to the pond. Sometimes they don't have access to land, so they cannot farm. Sometimes the land is so eroded that it needs help before the soil can be productive. Sometimes they cannot work their fields because they're too sick. They have HIV/AIDS, or they cannot get skilled jobs because they have no education and no transportation. Sometimes there are children whose parents have died of AIDS, So they have no support, and they're exploited by their relatives for cheap labor. The list can go on, but you can see that it is not enough just to give things or even try to build capacity, because sometimes people are in a system where they have no access to these resources or to these skills, and even when they have skills, they have no access to the opportunities. CRS used an approach to try to respond to this type of issue. It is called Integral Human Development, IHD, and it comes from the church teaching. In its simplest form, integral human development is to serve the whole person and every person. So we serve on the basis of need, not creed. Many people we serve are Muslims. But we also don't serve just one need, such as food or education. We try to look at the total person's need and create solutions which are sustainable, and solutions that help people build their resilience. We recognize all aspects of the person and what we need to do to tackle poverty. Integral human development also asks us to work across sector, that it is not just enough to work with the local parish, but that we must work with local government ministries, sometimes to work with local business so that there's opportunities for the poor. Also to work with local healthcare systems as well as local universities. So we have to engage different sectors of the community, of the society, to find solutions. We also have to work at multiple levels, starting with the person, the family, the community, and even the country, particularly to address systems-level unfairness. Integral human development leads us to develop different types of asset for that person, family, community, and country. And those assets could be financial in nature, it could be physical in terms of health, it could be social in terms of social cohesion and peace building, gender relations so that women are protected and have a chance, and also spiritual assets. So in emergency, for example, we not only give people food and shelter, but if it is the Muslims, we also give them the prayer rug and the Quran. For Christians, of course, the Bible. And finally, integral human development recognizes that individuals must have a voice in their society. They must have a voice in governance. They must have a place at the table of their society. So this is our approach, starting from after Rwanda, because we were so surprised by what happened in Rwanda. Integral human development to us is not an abstract concept, and it is the guiding framework for how we work across 100 countries. As much as possible, we work across all aspects of a community. So we don't just give the hungry food to eat, but we help them start a garden, a small keyhole garden that could supplement their diet for nutrients as well as supplement their income. Keyhole gardens are above-ground structure that's built up with bricks or whatever the materials are. They're at the waist level, and it is a garden where you could just plant seeds and attend to the plant while you're standing up. Why is it important to stand up? Because a lot of times people with HIV/AIDS do not have the energy to bend down and work. So here is a keyhole garden that basically tries to address the issue of long-term nutrition for both the patient and his or her family, and also to supplement income. We want people to work, not only for pay, but to have a bigger payoff. For example, we want their work also to lead to sometimes the recovery of their land from erosion. We want them to build irrigation for their fields so that now they would have a source of water. We want their work to also lead to better sanitation, such as latrines, so that they could take care of their health for the long run, and also to include wells that give them clean water. We also want to make sure that as much as possible, we bring people together again in a peaceful setting. In a lot of the places that we work, there's ethnic conflict. We have to be very conscious that our work does not create more conflicts because of unequal distribution, and as much as possible to design projects that we could bring people from multiple communities together. So a lot of times, irrigation project does not just affect one farm or one village. It affects many farms, it affects many villages, because we tap on a source of water from up a mountain. And so how we bring communities together in order to address who will get water, how they would maintain the pipes, how they would divide the profits from having water is as important as providing water. The good thing about this approach is that these solutions build on each other. For instance, when we build a water system, it solves multiple problems. It allows water for irrigation, it allows water for sanitation, but one thing you would not anticipate is that girls can now go to school because they are not fetching water. I was in Afghanistan in a village with the village elders, and there were sheets that reflected their brainstorming in their very humble houses. I asked the men, the elders, why do you want this water project? They, of course, said, it's good because the river is polluted. So this is clean water, they won't get diarrhea. There's also a lot of fighting at the river between the different villages. So that eliminates the fighting. For them, they want to have clean water so that they could clean themselves well before prayer. Their wives were learning how to read. And I said, why do you want your wives to learn how to read? And they said, because then the wives could also understand the holy book. Their children now have time to go to school, particularly the girls. So all of these are just sort of from one water system. So this is how we work. We also start small saving clubs, something we call Savings and Internal Lending Communities, SILC. Why do we do that? Because we want people to save up their money. Many poor people actually do not have access to banks or even to microloans. Some of these loans come at an interest rate of 12% a month. And so if you lose a crop, you could never repay your loans. And so we want people to recognize that even when they are very poor, they could save the small amount of capital they have, bring it all together as a group of 20, and they will have capital. This capital allows the women of that group, 75% of these saving groups are women. It allows the women to start small businesses, a chicken business, a roadside cafe business, a sewing business. It allows them to start a business to supplement their income. They start bakeries, for example. But the silk also holds the families together as the economic cushion because they don't have to leave home to look for work. They don't have to sell a child to prostitution. And they can sometimes even pay tuition for their children to go to school. Sometimes they could become supportive therapy sessions, a place where people get together to talk about their problems without any stigmatization. Sometimes it's a place where they could work out ethnic tensions. They also learn how to manage money and how to have controls and recording of their money and how they use that money. The money is always lent out every month, and so they keep track. They also set aside a small sum of that money for social purpose, for anyone who experienced a tragedy. The members learn management. They feel empowered to work in other areas. These type of savings groups have become a way for us to deliver health education, okay? Nutrition, how to take care of women taking care of themselves during pregnancy. After 7 years, we now have 1 million people in these savings groups, and they have saved $7 million US. Right? So just think about that opportunity working with very poor people who don't have a lot. We are now at this point where the scale of our work is too small. We can serve 1 million people after 7 years. There are 800 million poor people. We would never be able to serve them all. So we started another innovation, which is called private service providers. They're like certified financial planners, except they're for these little groups. So now we provide training to people from the local community who wants to become consultants to these saving groups and who are also certified by us to start new groups. And they will do it for a fee. We have now piloted that and tested that model and found that it works. So this actually won a prize, an award from the Microfinance Association. I'm going to show you a video. It's a 7-minute video of how this process works, how saving circles work, and particularly the use now of these community members who are trained as private service providers to start this type of saving circles. Right? So we need to cue up the video.
When I ride my bicycle through the village, I imagine how my life was when I was young. And I really pray that my children live better than how I was and enjoy their life. My name is Philip Kimutai Kogo. I live in Eldoret, Rift Valley in Kenya. Most of our people in Eldoret are farmers. As farmers, many people were not able to access funds to plant their farms because planting needs huge capital. So during May, June, July, we don't have enough crops in our area and there is a lot of anger. How can they access the little loans that can sustain themselves? Because if you want to borrow money from other institutions that are lending money, you are supposed to give out maybe a guarantor of a title deed or your animals. People were becoming poorer and poorer and poorer every year. As a private service provider, my job is to explain the benefits of silk to the community and to help organize them into silk groups. As a PSP, I train and support groups until they can do things on their own, and they pay for that service.
A silk is a group open to both men and women. They meet every week, and members serve at every meeting. Members take out loans and repay with interest. After about 1 year, groups share out all the money. Every member gets back the savings plus a profit. And then they start a new cycle of savings and lending.
Menisaidia hivi, biashara yangu naanza kwanza na vile nilianza kukopa loan.
And from the savings they are able to invest.
Kununua kuku. Sasa vile kuku ilianza kutaga, kwa nilikuwa nachukua mayai, nauza kwa wholesale.
The benefit is improved livelihood within the community.
Nilikuwa nikisanya karibu yangu kreti 2, naanza nanunua ngine ya majirani, naongeza nauza yote. Sasa vile hiyo pesa ikiingia, nanisaidia kurudisha kwa loan. Zingine natumia kwa nyumba. Sasa sishiki matope kuandika nyumba.
People have cultivated the culture of saving.
Hata wenye wataingia secondary, nitakuwa nikiwawekea pesa. Ndio wakiingia shule hakuna kusumbukana ati wanahitaji wanafukuzwa school fees.
There is also a social fund meant to take care of emergencies for members, for example sickness and funeral expenses.
Wakati huyu jirani wetu Mama Lilian alikuwa amepoteza msichana yake. Sasa kuna pesa tulitoa kidogo kidogo kusaidia yeye huyo mama.
Ni kazi ngumu sana. Kila mtu, kila kijana ako na family yake na watoto yake. Sasa hawana macho sana ya kuangalia hawa yatima. Ni mimi ni nyanya yao kuangalia kitu nafaa, waende shule, warudi wakule vizuri, wanawe vizuri. Kabla ya mimi kuingia silk, ilikuwa nahangaika sana kimawazo, ilikuwa nahangaika sana vile nitaishi, sababu ilikuwa shida sana kupata pesa. Mimi sasa huyo kama chairlady naenda ambia nimefungukiwa mali, huyo chairlady atakutana na group, ataongea nao, watachukua siku moja wanitembelee nyumbani, waniletee kila mtu kidogo kidogo. Hiyo ndio group inafanya.
The benefits for using the private service provider approach is the groups continue being informed and getting services on silk. Silk members select their own officials, they set their own rules. All the money comes from members. Silk is truly member-owned.
What you have seen in Kenya is that PSP model is cost-effective and sustainable. It's very encouraging to visit a silk group after 1 year and see members self-reliant.
When I started, I was moving around, giving out information about silk methodology, going to churches, ceremonies, chiefs, barasas. But now, people are coming to me. They are looking for me. They are looking for silk services. I chose to work with an apprentice because the silk demand. People were demanding they need to be trained on silk.
I was myself a silk member. I saw what Philip was doing to my group and I liked it. So I asked Philip, how can I become one of the PSPs? And he told me I have to be an apprentice. My job as an apprentice is to mobilize the community, train the groups, and monitor in collaboration with my PSP, Philip. Philip trains me and how to train groups and then supervises me whenever I'm training other groups. And finally, I'll be certified just like the other PSPs. And I'll be independent. I'll do everything on my own.
In silk, people learn to manage money access loans, and they have got a huge impact in the community.
Sili imetusaidia sana, tukikaa chini tunaongea na mzee, tunakuwa free, na pia watoto wanatufurahia, wanaona kazi vile tunafanya. Sasa mimi naona hiyo imenifanya kabisa tukue na upendo kati yangu na mzee. Tunasikizana, tunajadiliana vizuri.
Naona kampuni ya Silic kama familia yangu, sababu tunakaribiana kwa shida zetu, kwa kukawa mawazo, tunakawa pamoja mawazo, na kuna usaidizi ndani kimawazo. Silic ako na upendo ya kusanya watu wengi, na hata watu wengi wanatamani kuingia Silic.
The private service provider model is really working here in Eldoret, and CRS is going to take it all over Kenya, in Africa, and all over the world.
It has actually changed my life. My children are going to good schools, we eat well, we dress smart, not stay without a coin in my pocket. Like the other days, whoever came up with this idea, I don't know how he thought about it, because it is helping and it has changed our people. I wish this project could have been started some years back during our time, but it's not yet too late because our children will enjoy. I've seen the impact of silk in my community, and as a PSP, I'm going to make sure that it reaches everyone.
So that example is one of how do you change the conditions that people live in? How do you allow them to be self-reliant? How do you increase their capacity to solve their own problems? And as you can see, the effects are multiple. It's not only a bit of money, but learning how to manage money, learning how to start a small business, being able to pay school fees, being able to help each other as a community, and even foster better marriages. Our innovation was not starting the concept. This concept was in a lot of folk practices in China, in India, for example. Our innovation was to take it up to scale, to take it from communities that show us how it works to communities which have not seen this. The second innovation is that we realized we do not have the scale, and we needed a different approach by creating a whole new profession. Is the PSP, private service providers, are like certified financial planners, which is really only 30 or 40 years old in this country. But we created this particular profession, and we tested whether it works. The last point I want to make about this is that we also have to give up the work for it to be successful. We could make it a CRS program where CRS gets the grant and CRS trains the people, but we would be limiting the effect. So this is also a project where we are handing our work over and writing ourselves out of the equation. And I think that's also what successful development looks like, when the people you serve do not need you anymore. I'm just looking at time. I have other examples of how we work in Haiti, but I don't have a lot of time. So I'm just going to say, in Haiti, we not only helped 1 million people by feeding them, but our long-term systems change projects are in 3 areas. One, we are working with the Bishops' Conference to look at the whole Catholic school system. We gave a grant to the University of Notre Dame to map out 2,500 schools in a Catholic system. The researchers go on site, they use their mobile phone, they record data on 70 measures. They take a picture, we upload this onto the map of Haiti. We now have a complete picture of the Catholic schools in Haiti and a plan to develop teachers' training, parents' involvement, nutrition for children in schools, and also for disabled children. But this is a project that takes on the whole Catholic school system. Another project that we're in the process of doing is rebuilding the Catholic hospital, St. Francois de Sales. But we're not just rebuilding the hospital. We are also turning it into a teaching hospital where we connect with the medical school, Notre Dame Haiti, to do doctors training, nurses training, and we're also connecting the Catholic Health Association of the United States, which the members are the Catholic hospitals of the United States, to transfer capacity to the St. Francois de Sales. So it's not to rebuild the brick and mortar, but to transform this hospital so that it has the capacity to train new people. The third project that we're doing is taking very small farmers who grow mangoes and coffee, and there are several thousands of them in the area we work, to look at how we could help them get higher quality mangoes, higher production of mangoes, and also greater value after harvesting the mangoes. And it involves managing erosion. It involves training to change farming practices. It involves communities coming together because a lot of the runoff of chemicals go from the top to the bottom of the valley. So how we engage everybody in that process. It requires us to look at investments of converting the mangoes into juice or dried mangoes, or writing to the government to have roads and warehouses put in for the mangoes and the coffee. So I just want to give you some examples of integral human development, which is a different way of thinking what we are trying to achieve and what needs to be done. I want to end this talk by saying that most people focus on the problems, but not the fact that a lot of progress has also been made. For example, it used to be that 12 million children die a year. Now it's 6 million. Still a huge number, but in the 40 years, a lot of progress. 2 billion people now have access to clean water, and they did not used to. There's still 1 billion without clean water, but 2 billion now have access to clean water. In sub-Saharan Africa, used to be 43% of girls get education. Now it is 97%. The reason I share this, it is very important for us to remember that real progress has been made and can be made. And the last 40 years was a collective work of humanity in stepping up to the problems. The next round, in the next 15 to 20 years, the World Bank has said that it has set a goal that instead of 21% of poverty, which is $1.25 a day, it would be 3%. So I just want to end with this as a reminder that this is our work to do. We don't do it by ourselves. We know that God multiplies our work, and in that process, we have made real progress, and that there is still more progress to be made. Thank you very much.